I'm Kevin Nelson. Here's a look at what's going on this week in the news. We begin with news from the Vatican. The Pope has a very busy schedule during his two-day visit to Egypt, but one of the more important stops will be at Al-Azhar University, where many Sunni leaders are trained. Al-Azhar has been facing criticism and instability during the crisis in Egypt and the Middle East. However, there is hope the university will reclaim a positive international influence. Rome Reports has more on the university.
The imams of the Sunni elite have been studying at this university for centuries. Al-Azhar. Founded in the 10th century, its golden age was between the 14th and 15th centuries, when the fleeing intellectuals arrived after the Christian reconquest of Spain and the pressure of the Mongols from Central Asia. According to the British portal Muslim Heritage, which was created to facilitate better understanding of the Muslim world, there are currently 90,000 students with specializations in theology and Islamic studies. The Sunnis are about 80% of the world's Muslims, and many of their imams are formed at the University of Al-Azhar. This university has a certain authority in the Sunni Muslim world. Shiites are formed in Iran, Iraq, or Lebanon. Nevertheless, the political crisis of Egypt has also negatively impacted the authority of Al-Azhar. The dependence on political power has caused the prestige of Muslim universities in the Middle East to sink to the same governmental instability. The university has suffered the intellectual, political, and social crisis of the Arab and Islamic world. So perhaps you could say that Al-Azhar reflects the debate and the crisis that we have to try to deal with wisely. Al-Azhar has lost its authority and credibility because of the interference of political power in religious matters. However, at the moment there is a feeling that Al-Azhar must resume its international role. It must reform its programs, open up to the world, and to interreligious dialogue. For months, officials in the Vatican's Interreligious Dialogue Department have made several trips to Egypt in order to strengthen the ties with Al-Azhar University.
Looking now at news from around the country, the chairman of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops Committee on Pro-Life Activities, New York Cardinal Timothy Dolan, urged members of the Democratic Party to challenge their leadership to recant the recent pledge from the Democratic National Committee's chair to support only pro-abortion candidates. DN Chair Tom Perez said recently that every Democrat, like every American, should support a woman's right to make her own choices about her body and her health. That is not negotiable and should not change city by city or state by state. Cardinal Dolan called that position disturbing and intolerant. More news now from the Vatican. During a meeting with members of Catholic Action at the Vatican, Pope Francis talked about a phrase that he does not like to hear and should never be used. Rome Reports has more from that meeting.
Pope Francis gave a long and profound speech before the participants of the Second International Forum of Catholic Action. In his native Spanish, he spoke for an hour about their charisma, style, projects, and protagonists. He said that, like the whole Church, Catholic Action must avoid the temptation of remaining silent and instead evangelize with audacity.
Y hay una frase que nunca tienen que usar. No, siempre se hizo así. Esa frase, permítanme, es mala palabra. Se hizo así, bueno, hagamos como hacemos. Siempre hay que estar cambiando porque el tiempo cambia. Lo que nos cambia es lo esencial. Lo que nos cambia es el anuncio de Jesucristo, la actitud de misionariedad, la oración, la necesidad de rezar, la necesidad de formarse, la necesidad de sacrificarse. Eso no cambia. Hay que buscar el modo como hacerlo, pero no cambia. Pero él siempre se hizo así, hizo tanto daño a la Iglesia y continúa haciendo tanto daño a la Iglesia.
He said that it's necessary to leave their comfort zone and avoid the temptation of wanting to control everything or trying to achieve a useless perfectionism that only stops evangelization. Pope Francis recalled the passage from the New Testament, where Jesus commands 72 disciples to preach.
Apenas, sí, tenían una experiencia de Jesús, sabían lo esencial del mensaje cristiano, sabían las bienaventuranzas. Y estos volvieron con eso poco que tenían en ese momento, hasta los demonios se nos rendían. La fuerza de la predicación, la fuerza del testimonio, con lo que se tiene en el momento y es necesario para ese momento.
He also insisted on the importance of caring for the elderly and the youth and warned against the danger of clericalism.
And finally in the news, after some proposed changes to the American Health Care Act, the U.S. House of Representatives appears poised to vote on the health care legislation. However, Bishop Frank Dewane, chairman of the U.S. Bishops' Committee on Domestic Justice and Human Development, stressed that remaining flaws in the bill will harm poor and vulnerable people and called on members to insist upon changes before the vote. In a statement released by the USCCB, the bishop said it is deeply disappointing to many Americans that in modifying the American Health Care Act to again attempt a vote, proponents of the bill left in place its serious flaws, including, according to reports, unacceptable modifications to Medicaid that will endanger coverage and affordability for millions of people. The bishop said, sadly, some of the recently proposed amendments, especially those designed to give states flexibility, lack apparent safeguards to ensure quality of care. These additions could severely impact many people with pre-existing conditions while risking for others the loss of access to various essential coverages. Bishop Dewane said the House must not pass the legislation as it is. Members should insist on changes, especially for the sake of those who are struggling in our communities. Well, that is all the information we have for you this time. I'm Kevin Nelson. Don't forget, you can keep up to date on Catholic news throughout the week with Catholic Newsbreak right here on the Catholic TV network.